So after posting all these videos about reasons why you should drive for Lyft and Uber, things that I wish I knew before driving for them, ways to make more money with them, so on and so forth, I've gotten a lot of comments and questions, and a lot of people have basically watched those videos, decide to sign up with Lyft and Uber, and they ask me like, hey, I'm starting to drive. Do you have any tips for beginners? Or basically people who literally just signed up, they're getting ready to do their first ride, or they've only been doing Lyft or Uber for a couple of days now. Do you have any tips for beginners? So in this video, I'm going to talk about my 11 best tips for people just starting to drive for Lyft and Uber. Number 1, only drive during surge hours. Now, the truth is you can make money driving other times, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later in this video, but I've mentioned this numerous times in numerous different videos. To make the most basic bang for your buck, to make the most hourly rate and the highest you can in a given week, drive during the surge hours. And those are always the morning commutes, so 7 to 9 a.m., the evening commutes, 5 to 7 p.m., Friday and Saturday nights, and Saturday and Sunday during the day. Those are the times you can make the most amount of money without question. So 100%, if you're just starting to drive, shoot for those hours as much as you possibly can. Number 2, make sure you clean your car. Now, unfortunately, my car is a bit of a mess right now, so I do need to clean it. But I'm telling you, this above anything is the best way to get basically really good ratings and have overall good customer experience while driving. I do get asked a lot if I have any tips for, getting a 5-star rating, and I'll probably do a video on that a little bit later on. But basically, the number 1 tip out of anything I could possibly think of is really to have a clean car. If you think about it, when someone basically opens the door and they see your car and it's, super nice and clean and there's no trash anywhere, that alone immediately is going to be a really positive atmosphere right off the get-go. Number 3, download the app Gas Guru. Now, there are a couple different apps that do this. Personally, I like Gas Guru the best. But basically what Gas Guru is basically when you open up the app, it shows you all the different gas stations in your area. You can set kind of like a radius if you want. And it can show you which one is the cheapest one. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes only send or 2 off, but I've found gas stations that were only a couple minute more of a drive, and it saved me, sometimes even $5-10 for just one, basically refilling of my gas tank. And if you can be driving a lot for Lyft and Uber, this is something you can be doing a lot more. Not surprising. You're gonna have to be spending a lot more on gas. So this can help you just save a lot of money on gas, Or even if you're not driving for Lyft and Uber, this is useful to have anyway on your phone. Number 4, check the emails for events. Now, like I said in the beginning, you can make the most amount of money during surge hours, but there's a huge asterisk to this, and that all depends if there's an event going on. A great example is take something like New Year's Eve. If New Year's Eve falls on a Tuesday, yeah, Tuesdays are not usually popular, but on New Year's Eve, you bet they're going to be ridiculous, And what Lyft and Uber will do is they'll send you emails with events. For example, I know in Boston, for example, when I used to drive there a lot, they would say to me, oh, by the way, this Wednesday and Thursday is actually a huge graduation ceremony at BC or BU or Harvard or whatever. And I know that those periods were always ridiculous. If anything, those surge hours were actually more popular than a crazy Friday and Saturday night. So I'm telling you that always check for events, whether there's a sports game going on, a musical event going on, something to do with the college or universities in your area. I mean, who knows? There's always random events going on, and those are huge, huge surge hours to make a lot of money. Number 5, join both apps. Now, I've mentioned this in a bunch of other videos. The reason why you should join both is 1, it doesn't really hurt you, meaning it's not like you have to pay to join either of them, and it's pretty similar to joining. And 2, each app has its own benefits. I'm telling you, the apps fluctuate all the time in terms of which one's paying more. When I first started driving, I found that Uber paid way more than Lyft. Then that kind of flip-flop, Then Uber started revealing its Uber Gold Rewards, which is basically a reward system that you can make a lot of money in a week without actually guarantee you a surge hour. Meaning that even if it's dead, even if there's no one out, getting an Uber or Lyft, you will still get a minimum like 2x surge on a normal fare, which can obviously add up because if you then do get a surge, that basically combines with that surge. So you make a lot of money with Uber now. So they're always going back and forth, and by having both apps, you can get the best of both worlds. In addition, like I said, when it comes to the events, sometimes I've noticed that Lyft will miss a huge event that's going on in the area, but Uber will catch it, or vice versa. Uber will miss it, and Lyft will catch that event, So there's really huge benefits to having both apps. In addition, you can literally run both of them at the same exact time on the same phone, which is another huge benefit. Number 6, get a phone attachment. This to me always blows my mind when I see somebody who's driving and they do this thing where they have their phone out in front of them and they're looking up and down, or looking at the GPS and everything. Get something that attaches to your windshield, or even something that attaches to like your ventilation system, like your AC or your heating. I have a link list below on Amazon to the one that I personally bought. It's the one I'm actually using to film this video because it's kind of a cool car cam setup as well. And I'm telling you, that saves you so much hassle. In addition, it's just way safer as opposed to having the phone in your lap. Let's say it falls and you pick it up. Turns out you missed a turn. It's just a huge nightmare. In addition, I've even taken Lyft and Ubers with people. And when the guy or girl has been doing this, and people in my car have been like, are they safe doing that? Like looking down, up, doing this kind of motion the whole time. Just not worth it, I'm telling you. Especially, the cost of an attachment device, like the one I have, I think it was really like 15 or 20 bucks. It's nothing compared to, the safety is, because obviously if you get in an accident because you're looking down, it's going to cost you a lot more than just something that attaches to your windshield, In addition, it's just way less of a hassle. Your phone's right there. It's easy to click and do everything on the Lyft and Uber apps and on the GPS. It's just an absolute breeze. Number 7, have your business cards on you. Now, this is something I really wish I knew immediately when I first started driving. I wish someone slapped me in the face and said, do this, because obviously, as most of you know, I'm a DJ and music producer. That's my main thing. And when I first started driving, I figured that maybe my music would come up, but I honestly didn't know. And when I started driving, I cannot tell you how many people would say to me, hey, so you're a DJ music producer, that's really cool. Do you have a link to your music? Or do you have what's your SoundCloud name, whatever? And my last name is my DJ name. My last name is Ferchero. Obviously not the easiest name to spell. And so a lot of times people are like, oh, would you have a card that you can kind of hand to me? And unfortunately, I didn't have business cards on me when I first started driving. I then ordered some on Vistaprint. I got I think it was 500 business cards for $10 or something. It was so cheap, And then after doing that, anytime someone, hey, do you have a link to your music? Boom, just hand them a business card. If you have a business or a blog or a YouTube channel or some product you're working on, whatever the case is, have things in your car to promote yourself. This is a great way to get your name out there, In addition, even if, let's say, you're not somebody who has a side hustle, let's say you run a 9-to-5 job, that's all you do lifting on the side, you never know when it can come in handy. Who knows if, someone is in your industry and you're looking to switch to a different job. I even had one time, and I'm not making this up, was talking to a guy for the entire ride, and it turns out he just started his own computer company, and he was looking for employees, and he offered me a job on the spot. We talked for a good 45 minutes. I talked about my experience with computer programming and how I'm a DJ now and all this stuff. And he said to me, look, man, I like your personality. After talking to you, you obviously know what you're talking about when it comes to computers. Would you ever be interested in working for me? I'm not joking. I don't know if you have a card in you or your resume or anything like that. And I respectfully declined because at this point I was moving to LA. But I was like, wow, to get a job offer and a Lyft or Uber, never would have expected that. So definitely have your business cards on you or something where if someone asks about you, you can give them something for more information. Number 8, make sure your car smells good. Now this goes hand in hand with kind of making sure that your car is clean, but I want to give this one its own category simply because I've gotten into cars that were spotless, super clean, and yet there's some weird funky smell or something smelled bad, or they clearly just ate McDonald's and it reeks of fast food, Definitely have something in your car that just makes it smell good, whether it's one of those air freshener things that you attach to your ventilation system, or it's one of those trees that you just basically hang up. Just something to make it smell good. You can really go to the dollar store and get a couple of them, or you can go to Target or Walmart or basically any store. There's tons of stores that sell them. It's a few bucks, and not only is it going to be good for Lyft and Uber, but for anybody else that gets into your car. Number 9, call before arriving. Now this is something that I really didn't start doing in the beginning, and I started doing it more and more often to the point where I do it basically every ride. And that is when I'm approaching somebody's house, I will automatically, take out the app, whether it's Lyft or Uber, and call them and say, hey, this is Mark, I'm your Uber Lyft driver, just so you know, I'm 1 minute away. And the reason why I do that is Lyft and Uber will both text the person when you're a minute away. However, especially on a Friday and Saturday night or other times, people are running around, they're getting changed, they're getting ready, and it's very easy to miss a text, a lot harder to miss a phone call. And the worst that happens when you do this is someone says, oh yeah, I know, I see you on the app, I'm outside right now actually waiting for you, I'll see you in a minute. I'm like, perfect, But a lot of times, you're going to call somebody, or say if you don't call them, you'll be surprised how long sometimes you'll have to wait outside. I've even waited outside even after I started the ride, 5 or 10 minutes, because you were getting ready. And you make basically nothing sitting there waiting. You make maybe on these 20 cents a minute or something ridiculous, So you're better off, especially in the long run, it can really add up. You're better off calling them every time before you're about to approach your place. They get in your car, sooner rather than later, and then you're good to go. Number 10, do not use the Uber GPS. Now, this was a lot worse back in the day. I guess it's a little bit better now, but when it comes to specifically using Uber, always use a third-party app. I'd much rather use Apple Maps than the Uber GPS. It's just absolutely atrocious. My GPS of choice, hands down, is always Google Maps. I love Google Maps, honestly. Like, I think it's way better than Waze or Apple Maps or whatever. So 100% I suggest that. But overall, Lyft will automatically connect to a third party. Lyft doesn't have its own GPS system. So basically, you have to use like Waze, Apple Maps, or Gmaps, or Google Maps, I guess, with Lyft. But when it comes to Uber, you have the option of either using a third party or Uber's own GPS. And I'm telling you, 100% of the time, always use a third party app like Google Maps, Waze, or Apple Maps. And lastly, number 11, save all your receipts. Now, this is huge simply because when you drive a Lyft and Uber, you're an independent contractor. What that means is that taxes don't get taken out of your earnings, they get taken out at the end of the year of your earnings. I mean, they kind of all racks up. And a big thing when it comes to tax accounting, especially if you're an independent contractor or if you're self-employed or whatever the case is you have to now itemize all your deductions. A deduction essentially is anything that relates to the common practices of the business. For example, to simplify it, when driving with Lyft and Uber, anytime you spend money in gas, anytime you do maintenance on your car, if you buy that phone attachment that I mentioned before, save all those receipts, and that way you can basically itemize it off your earnings later in the year so you don't have to pay as much in taxes. Now, obviously, if you do a different job, it helps offset that cost and get a bit tricky as well. But overall, I'm telling you, save all your receipts. Anything that basically you spend in relation to Lyft and Uber. If you get an aux cord so people can listen to music, you can itemize that. Gas, maintenance, the phone attachment. If you buy something to make your car smell good, you can argue it's for Lyft and Uber, so therefore you can deduct it. If you, let's say, get your car, detailed. Like, say you get like the entire car cleaned out and stuff like that. And let's say you spend $50 to $100, you can itemize that. So basically, there's so many different factors. But overall, save all your receipts. Even if you're on the fence, if you're like, I don't know if this really counts or not, it's kind of on the fence, do it anyway, because the worst that happens is it doesn't count.